single for years, Rose suddenly found herself being proposed to by 7 different men lined up in front of her. Her mother, ecstatic, insisted that she should date one man each day. The puppy-like boy on Monday, the muscular guy on Tuesday, the elite type on Wednesday, the academic genius on Thursday. If all else fails, you can just date them all at once, Rose's mother declared, as the eager suitors swarmed around her. Overwhelmed, Rose collapsed onto the sofa in terror. She had a peculiar condition. Whenever she came into contact with men, her limbs would go stiff. This condition stemmed from a traumatic experience years ago, when her ex-boyfriend dumped her and cheated on her with her cousin. Ever since, she had developed a psychological aversion to men. Seeing her daughter's tears, Rose's mother mistakenly thought she didn't like men and reassured her, "It's okay if you like women. I'll understand." Panicked at the thought of her mother arranging 7 girlfriends for her instead, Rose quickly claimed that she was already engaged to someone abroad. Her mother, overjoyed, demanded that Rose bring her fiancé home immediately. With no real boyfriend, Rose had no choice but to order a boyfriend robot online, one of the latest AI models developed by the Lou Group. Meanwhile, the boss of the Lou Group, Jack, was frantically running for his life, pursued by his grandmother who was trying to drag him to a matchmaking session. Quick-witted, Jack hid in a cardboard box by the roadside, narrowly evading capture. Unbeknownst to him, this box was intended for delivery to Rose's home as her boyfriend robot. When Rose opened the box and laid eyes on Jack, she was immediately taken by his looks, marveling that he was even more handsome than the product photos. She couldn't resist poking his cheek, surprised by how lifelike and elastic it felt. Realizing she had mistaken him for a robot, Jack decided to play along to avoid his grandmother's relentless matchmaking attempts. Rose, flipping through the user manual, began searching his face and ears for the power button. Seeing her struggle, Jack powered on himself, introducing himself in a robotic voice. "Lou Group Model 1111 at your service. Please select your desired mode." Rose, delighted, quickly chose boyfriend mode. But with no dating experience, Jack found himself at a loss on what to do next. Rose assumed his voice module was malfunctioning and began probing around, only to be startled when she touched his Adam's apple and felt it move. "Wow, this robot is just like a real person," she exclaimed, then curiously began exploring his chest muscles. Flustered, Jack grabbed her hand to stop her. Mistaking it as him trying to shake hands, Rose joyfully squeezed his hand, then threw her arms around him, sighing, "Not only is he handsome, but he's obedient too." Yet she quickly became wistful, lamenting that he was only a robot. Rose instructed Jack to give her a massage. As a dignified boss, Jack initially balked at the idea, but a second later, he found himself kneeling by her side as Rose grabbed his hand, placing it on her face and insisting that he call her master from now on. Clenching his teeth, Jack grudgingly muttered "master." Satisfied, Rose praised that he was 10 times better than her ex-boyfriend, and drifted off to sleep, leaving Jack to chuckle at her cuteness. The next day, Rose took Jack to a family gathering, giving him some cash to buy presents and keep up appearances. When Rose's mother asked where her fiancé was, her cousin sneered, suggesting that her fiancé had probably bailed on her. Just then, Jack appeared, presenting a series of extravagant gifts: jewelry, a villa in the city center, luxury cars, all worth millions. Rose's cousin slunk away in embarrassment, while Rose grew suspicious of Jack's true identity. Just as Jack was about to confess, Rose dismissed her doubts, reasoning that if he were a real person, she'd have had a physical reaction by now. Convinced the gifts were just props, Rose mused over how realistic the robot was, even to the point of sweating, prompting a flustered Jack to wipe his brow. When they returned home, Jack's grandmother suddenly appeared, prompting Jack to pretend to malfunction and warn Rose to stay back. His grandmother, however, grabbed his ear, scolding him for hiding out instead of attending his blind date. When she tried to drag him away, Rose exclaimed in amazement that even the robot had a grandmother. Realizing her grandson's ploy, Jack's grandmother cleverly introduced herself as Lou Group Model 0000, claiming she was there for customer feedback. Rose, thrilled, invited her inside. Rose asked Jack's grandmother if she needed recharging, but she merely squeezed Rose's hand and declared that with such a lovely granddaughter-in-law, she was fully charged. Slightly puzzled, Rose listened as Jack explained that his grandmother was a robot with a built-in grandma role setting that saw Rose as her granddaughter-in-law. Rose then inquired if boyfriend robots like Jack were programmed to see all users as girlfriends. Jack replied that he would only ever like her, making Rose's heart skip a beat. Flustered, she ran off, warning herself against developing feelings for a robot. Watching her leave, Jack's grandmother asked him when he planned to marry Rose, suggesting Christmas as a good date so she could have a great-grandchild next year. Jack sighed, saying he didn't even know if Rose liked him yet, let alone marriage. His grandmother reassured him, promising she had a plan. Jack's grandmother took Rose to a bridal shop, claiming Lou Group was running a promotion. Couples who took wedding photos with boyfriend robots and posted them online had a chance to win a $10,000 prize. Tempted by the money, Rose eagerly dragged them to the shop. Seeing Rose in a wedding dress made Jack's heart flutter, but before he could say anything, his grandmother shoved him aside, snapping countless photos of Rose and promptly posting them on her social media, proudly showing off her granddaughter-in-law to her friends. At that moment, one of Rose's high school friends appeared, and as they chatted, Jack's grandmother misinterpreted the situation, thinking Rose was being harassed, and summoned Jack to defend her. Minutes later, Jack arrived with a team of bodyguards and announced that he had just purchased the store and was about to fire Rose's friend when the friend tearfully hugged Rose, enviously declaring how lucky she was to have such a rich and handsome boyfriend. Only then did Jack realize it was all a misunderstanding caused by his grandmother. The quick-thinking grandmother faked a malfunction and hurriedly exited, while Jack improvised, promoting Rose's friend to store manager. Rose, having figured out the truth, asked if Jack had brought the reinforcements, thinking she was being bullied. Without waiting for his reply, she impulsively kissed his cheek, murmuring, "If you were real, I'd marry you." Jack seized the opportunity to reveal his true identity, but Rose cut him off, saying she hated lies and didn't want anyone lying to her. Forced to keep his secret, Jack swallowed his confession. Meanwhile, the original boyfriend robot, abandoned by Jack, activated its searching for owner mode and locked onto Rose's address. When Rose found the actual robot at her doorstep, Jack knew the ruse was up. Just as he was about to apologize, Rose casually asked if Lou Group had accidentally sent her 2 robots. Jack quickly agreed, telling her to go inside while he took care of the duplicate. He dragged the robot away, but it activated its self-defense mode and began attacking him. In the end, Jack yanked out its battery, tossing it into a trash bin. Late at night, seeing Rose still working on her presentation for a big pitch the next day, Jack brought her a glass of water and encouraged her. Rose's heart stirred, wishing Jack were a real person. Lost in thought, she impulsively kissed him, only to come to her senses when he said her name, accidentally spilling water on his chest. Panicked, she began wiping it off, worried he'd short-circuit. Jack held her hand to his chest, telling her that he'd never malfunction, and that his heart would always beat for her. Flustered, Rose quickly retreated to her room, scolding herself for feeling anything toward a robot and reminding herself it was all just programming. At the pitch the next day, Jack's presence at her side drew envious glances, and her cousin, having learned Jack's real identity as the boss of Lou Group, tried to bribe Rose to leave him with an offer of $2 million. Laughing at the thought of selling her $500,000 robot for 4 times its price, Rose happily took the money. Her cousin taunted Jack, but he calmly handed a cake to Rose, declaring that no matter what, he would always unconditionally support her. Rose declared that Jack was her robot and would never leave his master, thanking her cousin for the investment. Enraged, her cousin vowed revenge. During Rose's presentation, her USB drive was hacked by her cousin, who hijacked the stage to present Rose's work as her own. Jack used his tech skills to restore the original files, exposing her cousin's plagiarism and helping Rose secure the contract. Just as Jack was about to confess everything to Rose, her furious cousin suddenly shoved Rose into the pool, convinced that since Jack was just a robot, he wouldn't be able to go in after her, leaving the non-swimmer Rose to drown. But Jack immediately jumped into the pool, performing mouth-to-mouth resuscitation on the unconscious Rose. When they finally made it to shore, Rose, feeling guilty upon seeing Jack soaked to the bone, noticed he wasn't saying a word and worried he might have short-circuited. Meanwhile, her cousin stood by, gloating. At that moment, Jack's grandmother appeared out of nowhere, revealing to Rose that Jack wasn't a robot at all. He was the boss of the Lou Group. With a single command, she had Rose's cousin escorted away. Learning that she had been deceived, Rose began to cry. Jack, alarmed, hurried after her, explaining that he hadn't meant to trick her as a robot. He'd tried to tell her the truth several times, but something always interrupted him. Though his robotic identity was fake, his feelings for her were completely genuine. As he spoke, he placed her hand on his chest, where his heart was beating wildly. Rose finally broke into a smile, extending her hand to him and saying, "Then let's get to know each other properly." Jack grasped her hand tightly, told her his real name, and added a final title, Rose's exclusive boyfriend.